Good afternoon. It's 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. We'll go ahead and call the City Council meeting for the City of New Ulm to order. Item 1, consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'd like to go ahead and pull item 1.1 on the consent agenda item for Mayor's presentation.
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Item removed. Mayor Sweeney?
All right. So join the City Council and the community of New Ulm to share a moment of silence in remembrance of former Mayor Carl Red Wojciechowski, who proudly served as mayor from 1970 to 1994, following his service as city councilor from 1964 to 1970. I'm going to suggest we have a moment of silence for 24 years in honor, or for 24 seconds in honor of 24 years. All right, thank you. If you don't know about Mr. Wojciechowski, he's got a plaque next to the clock in the back of the room.
Thank you. Back to item number 1, consent agenda. Councilors, what are your wishes?
I'll offer a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2.1, 2020-2021, weed removal, snow removal, and sidewalk repair assessments.
Councilors, these are just annual assessments that are done for those outstanding balances for those services that were rendered. We received no complaints or questions in our office regarding the assessments.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve establishing the special assessment for 2020 and 2021 weed removal, snow removal, and sidewalk repairs, and set the date for the public hearing on Tuesday, October 19th, 2021 at 4:30 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2.2, public hearing and consider vacation of all existing alley rights-of-way in Block 123 north of Center Street.
So it's a public hearing.
Is there anybody that'd like to be heard?
Mr. Nisley wants to speak.
Sure. John Nisley, planner with the City of New Ulm. I don't know where Mr. Schnobrecht is right now, but he's supposed to be speaking on this matter. In your packets, there is the consideration of a vacation of all the existing alley rights-of-way in Block 123 north of Center Street. The petitioners are also here as well, so if you have any questions for staff, we may be able to answer those at this time.
If nobody has any questions or anybody else from the public, I move to close the public hearing and offer a resolution, waive the reading, approving a resolution vacating all the existing alley rights-of-way in Block 123 north of Center Street with the stated conditions.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Duncan?
Excuse me.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 3.1, raffles and gambling permit.
I'll offer a motion to approve the issuance of lawful gambling permit to Deer Deutsch Longbirds to conduct raffles gambling at the New Ulm Country Club, 1 Gulf Drive, Saturday, February 5th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.2, temporary liquor license for New Ulm Area Chamber of Commerce.
I'll make
I'll offer a motion to approve the issuance of a temporary on-sale intoxicating liquor license for New Ulm Chamber of Commerce to serve and consume alcohol during Oktoberfest located at the corner of Center and Minnesota Street to Broadway Street on Saturday, October 2nd, subject to compliance with city and state requirements.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.3, temporary on sale 3.2% malt liquor license for Brown County Agricultural Society.
I'll offer a motion to approve the issuance of temporary on sale 3.2 malt liquor license to Brown County Ag Society to sell alcohol to Brown County Fairgrounds, 1201 North State Street for an event Saturday, October 9th, 2021, subject to compliance with all city and state requirements.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
What kind of event is it?
Looks like it's a demo
I
derby,
think
it
it's another
says.
demo.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.4, issue taxi license to Red's Rides Cab, Shuttle, and Delivery, LLC.
Motion to approve the issuance of a taxi license to Red's Rides Cab, Shuttle, and Delivery, LLC, owned by Jeffrey Bray, 12852 County Road 24, Searles, Minnesota, for a second taxi vehicle for the period beginning September 8th, 2021, and ending June 30th, 2022, subject to compliance with all city and state requirements.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
I guess the only discussion I have here, they did do an inspection of the vehicle. There was a couple minor things that the repair shop, found there. How do we know that they performed those repairs, is my question. Do we have the individual here to ask that? Or do we do a follow-up with him that he corrected, if he's got a light out and front brakes here, it says?
Yeah, we can call them to do a follow-up on that.
Okay.
Any further discussion? I do think it's nice and shows the need that we have for transportation, so wonderful. Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4.1, report from city engineer regarding proposed 2022 MSAS improvements.
Thank you, Madam President and City Councilors. Today, I bring before you the report on the 2022 MSAS Improvement Project. The city has received federal funding in federal year 2022 in the amount of $1,360,772 to help fund a portion of this project. This project consists of roadway improvements, recreation trail and sidewalk extension along 20th North Street from Broadway to Front Street and Front Street between 19th and 20th North Streets. Right now, that roadway section is just bituminous maintenance mat that was constructed as part of the 2004 MnDOT Highway 14 project that was used as a detour route. The city is under contract with ISG to help with the design of this project and also to work through the federal project memorandum and other documents that are needed with a project with federal funding. That federal project memorandum was approved by MnDOT on January 25th of this year. The report itself is broken into 8 sections, going through them here. Section 1 is just the project description and estimated cost. Section 2 breaks that funding down and shows our projected bonding need for this project. Section 3 talks about our criteria for rating roadway segments and goes on to state our miles of failed pavement, marginal, adequate, and our total paved mileage. Section 4 touches on our complete streets policy, and I should note the Safety Commission reviewed this project at their September 2nd meeting, and with the preliminary, or the final layout that's within your packet today, and they found that this project complies with that policy. Section 5 discusses the necessity, cost effectiveness, and feasibility of this proposed project. And Section 6 touches on the special benefit methodology, and 7 talks on the special assessment amounts. I should note that the proposed assessment amounts for this project, we reduced the base amount by 60% as this roadway is a local collector, and that is consistent with past assessment procedures that we've done in the past on roadway sections such as this.
Did you mean $260?
Yep, $260 per foot, yep. So that would be reduced to $156 per foot with that methodology. Notice we had design Zoom meeting on April 22nd to receive public input on this project from the affected property owners. And then we have a public hearing for this project scheduled for September 21st. The last section in the report is just the addendum that shows the breakdown for the cost estimate of this project. Assistant Engineer Shuttle has put the proposed layout up on the display board, and as you can see, we are proposing to extend the recreational trail from where it heads to the north, and we'll extend that to North Broadway. We are proposing to extend sidewalk on the south side of 20th North Street, up to that same intersection point. Roadway width, in order to meet design curve criteria and to fit the roadway within the existing right-of-way that we have around the curve from 20th North to Front Street, we opted to shrink the roadway and eliminate the sidewalk in this section just because it won't fit without acquiring a design exception and additional right-of-way. So working with our design team, that was the alternative that we've landed on. If there's any questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer those.
Joe, how long do you think it'll take?
This project is slated to last probably 3 to 4 months in the summer of 2022. The exact timeline hasn't been narrowed down yet, but that would depend on the contractor schedule and when we get bid documents out and things of that nature.
I've noticed just the, as far as the reconstruction activity, that the cost from 13 years ago is up probably threefold just over those past 10 years. Is this something that you see at some point leveling off, or is this going to continue to kind of exponentially multiply? I'm just kind of
I would guess that, yeah, it's probably going to continue to go up. Yeah, some of the projects in the past 3 years have been pretty difficult, and that's reflected in the pricing as well. So once we stabilize out of real difficult projects, that might balance out a little bit. But that's just what we're seeing across the board with anything from home construction to any type of construction really is prices of that nature. So
Is that due to just kind of, when you have drains nearby that you need to deal with and like
Yep, so
ADA, some of those extra things that they need to have? or-
not necessarily, it's the labor and material costs and things of that nature. This project will have some pipe work to extend storm sewer inlets and things of that nature, but mostly it's roadway reconstruction. So.
Perfect, thank you.
And we have a public hearing scheduled for the 19th of this month to discuss this further.
21st, yep.
21st, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
next meeting.
Yep. All right, I'll go ahead and adopt the knowledge receiving the proposed 2022 MSAS Improvement Project Engineering Report.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4.2, conditional use permit, State of Minnesota Department of Military Affairs.
Dave Schnobrick, Community Development Director. Madam President, members of the City Council. This request was submitted by Kyle Rhodes on behalf of Dunlar Construction and Russell Ekholm on behalf of the State of Minnesota Department of Military Affairs. And they are requesting a conditional use permit to place a special purpose fence on the property legally described as Lot 1, Block 1, Palmer Addition. Street address of that property is 2100 Palmer Avenue. This request is associated with the current construction of a field maintenance shop by the National Guard at that location. This particular facility is going to have a large outdoor storage area for equipment, and they want to place a fence around that particular area, and the fence would be 8 feet tall, 7 feet would be chain link, and the top foot would be a 3-strand barbed wire fence. And it is the barbed wire fence that is classified as a special purpose fence, and that's what requires the conditional use permit. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the request for the following reasons. Number one is that the request complies with the conditions required for the granting of a conditional use permit. Number two is that the National Guard has similar fencing arrangements at their current facility at 1523 South Washington Street. And number three, that the vehicles and equipment being stored within the fenced area require a higher level of security and protection. There were 4 conditions. Condition number one is that the applicant will pay the cost to record the permit with the Brown County Recorder's Office. Number two, the fence will be installed in the location shown on attachment 4, which is part of your agenda packet. Number three, the fence height and amount of barbed wire fencing installed will be as described in the conditional use permit application. And 4, if there is a change in ownership or occupancy of the applicant's property at 2100 Palmer Avenue, the installed fence will be brought into compliance with city fence regulations within 3 months of the change. This particular matter was unanimously recommended for approval by the Planning Commission at their August 26th meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Schnobreck.
I don't have anything to add from the Planning Commission. Dave did a very well detailed report, so if anybody's got any questions, otherwise I'm going to offer a motion to approve with conditions of the applicant of Kyle Rhodes on behalf of Dunlar Construction and Russell Eckelholm on behalf of the State of Minnesota Department of Military Affairs for conditional use permit to allow installation of a special purpose fence on the property legally described as Lot 1, Block 1, Palmer Edition.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Resolution.
It should be.
Resolution?
Resolution, waive the reading.
Oh. I'll opt for resolution, waive the reading.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 4.3, variance request by Tim Cordes.
Good evening, John Isley, planner with the City of New Ulm. For an overview, the property owner is proposing to place a 10 by 14 foot storage shed 6 feet from the north or side property line. The required side yard setback in the R1 or single family residence district is 10 feet. The purpose of this shed is to store his UTV or utility terrain vehicle. And the shed that is being proposed is supposed to be placed on the existing concrete driveway just north and east of the existing garage. I should note that on this site, on the north side, there's a steep slope that comes down, and then it's a retaining wall, and right after the retaining wall is where the concrete starts for his pad for his garage. The Planning Commission at their August 26, 2021 meeting unanimously recommended approval of the variance request with one condition. That one condition was that the applicant shall locate the property boundaries and verify the location of the accessory structure on the site with city staff prior to the placement of the structure. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Nisley.
I'll offer the motion to approve the application of Tim Cordes to allow a 10 by 14 accessory structure 6 feet from the south side, from the side north property line on property zoned R1, Single Family Resident District at 1827 North Jefferson Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
I'm going to just add, from the planning commission, we discussed, if he had to get access to the rear of his yard, he'd have to go onto his neighbor, the county's land, and it's just where he's at with, his property and trying to store, his toy, and so he wants to keep it enclosed, so we didn't see any issues with it.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4.4, variance request by Martin Luther College.
All right. So this variance request is by Olson and Hobie Architects LLC on behalf of Martin Luther College, requesting a variance to allow up to 1,545.5 square feet of exterior signage on the Betty Cone Fieldhouse on property zoned RA, or the Agricultural Residence District, and at 1800 Betker Road. At their August 26, 2021 meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the variance to allow up to a total of 820 square feet of sign area on the property with 2 conditions. It should be noted that this recommendation was passed with 3 commissioners in favor of the motion and then 2 commissioners dissenting. Those 2 commissioners dissenting were seeking a smaller amount of square footage on the property. Martin Luther College is in the process of constructing an athletic field house that is approximately 150 feet wide, 240 feet long, and 71 feet tall at the peak. The field house is a permitted use in the RA zoning district, and the applicant is proposing to install exterior signage on the property above the 30 square feet that is allowed in that zoning district. The proposed signage on the property is as follows. On the south wall, which would be facing Oakwood Avenue or Betker Road, there is a Betty Cone Fieldhouse sign that is 172 square feet. There is a Knight logo that is 357 square feet. And then there are these 2 red lines, we're referring to them as lances, and those are 223 square feet. So the south wall total has 752 square feet of signage. On the north wall, which would face County State Aid Highway 27, there is 1 MLC sign, which is 272 square feet. Again, those red lines are lances, which are 506 square feet, and the north wall is a total of 778 square feet. So that's where we're getting closer. And then lastly, there is an existing entrance sign off of Betker Road that is 15 and a half square feet, and the applicant would like to keep that sign as part of their project. So this brings us to a total amount of sign area on the property to 1,545.5 square feet. The field house will be located 650 feet plus or minus from the entrance road off of Betker, and the nearest residences to the field house are approximately 615 feet to the northeast, and then 515 feet to the south. County State Aid Highway is located roughly 550 feet to the north. So at the Planning Commission, there was a lengthy discussion on this topic and what should or should not be considered part of the sign area calculation in this request. Our current city ordinance defines sign to mean the name, the identification, description, display, illustration, or device which is affixed to or represented directly or indirectly upon a building, structure, or land in view of the general public, and which directs attention to a product, a place, activity, person, institution, or business. The architect representing MLC made note that they did not believe that the lances or those red lines were signage, and that rather they were an architectural feature or banding and should not be counted towards the square footage allowed on the property. The Planning Commission's recommendation for allowing a total up to 820 square feet of exterior signage on the property did include those red lines or lances in the sign area calculation. So their recommendation meant that either the applicant had to remove some of the elements of the sign that they're proposing, or shrink down the sign area to reach that 820 square feet that they were recommending. The architect, representing MLC, also noted that he thought the city should consider, when calculating sign area for the site, consider this more of a B2 or a general or service business district type of use, which would allow up to 10% of signage on the exterior of the building facing a roadway. But we have to look at it from the perspective that this is the zoning district that it's located in. 30 square feet is what's allowed in that zoning district. We can't just use a different zoning district because those regulations might fit our proposal a little better. Needless to say, the south wall, the signage on the south wall would contain roughly, or would cover roughly 9.5% of the building. And then on the north wall, it would be roughly 9.9% of that building face. So lastly, when considering a variance request, staff is charged with evaluating its request as it relates to the zoning district in which the property is located and the variance criteria as it is set out in state statute. The city asked 7 questions on the second page of our variance application, which reflect the criteria that is set forth in state statute. In statute, variances must pass a 3-factor test of practical difficulties, which asks if the proposal is reasonable use of land, if there's anything unique related to the property that was not created by the landowner, and then will the proposal alter the essential character of the vicinity. Staff does believe that this variance request does not meet the need of practical difficulty, as it wasn't anything on the landscape that created this need. Rather, this is what they would like on their building. There were 2 conditions that the Planning Commission recommended. One, that the applicant shall contact the city building official once all signage on the property is installed to verify compliance with the variance amount granted. And then 2, any signage above the amount of square feet approved by the variance would necessitate an additional variance. That concludes the staff report. The architect representing MLC is here, as well as some members from MLC staff. And I think Mr. Olson would maybe like to show a few pictures, or?
I can after, maybe.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Nisley. Can you talk about what the dissenting votes stated? Just simply that it didn't fall into what the current rules were, I guess, the 2 votes that were against it. And then the ones that for it, can you tell me a little bit about what that argument was made?
So the commission's recommendation was that they were allowed up to 820 square feet. The 3 that had voted for that were okay with that amount of signage on the property. The 2 dissenting votes would like less than the 820 square feet of signage on the property.
Did they have a number?
They didn't have a number.
But they're counting the lances, which look decorative, at least as far as I'm seeing, as more signage, correct?
Yeah, the commission's recommendation did include the lances in this total square
Yep.
footage. Yep.
You know, one item I want to make a comment on, and eventually we're going to get our sign ordinance updated. We've seen a couple of them this year, including the city's request. Our sign ordinance is not built for these big type of buildings. Nowhere in there will you find it. I mean, we go by the letter of the law, we're going to give MLC 2 square feet, correct?
Well,
Our ordinance.
30 square feet.
30 square feet. In my mind, where this building is located, yes, it's in the residential ag district. I realize the staff report, and thank the planning commission for putting into it. Everything MLC has always done has been tasteful to our community. I think it looks fantastic, their proposal. A huge building, community use. It's located, in my mind, out in nowhere. I mean, I came down the hill and I looked at our recreational facility again. I can't even read the Turner Gymnastics lettering on the wall. I mean, I don't have an issue with their proposal. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think for this type of major building and the size of it, I don't think it's an issue. That's my personal opinion.
I just want to bring up that this building is twice the height of our current Vogel, so it's got some size and dimension to it. And, I felt it was, right away looking at it and the interpretation of the what we're calling lances or banding as an architectural feature, and it's being accented. Eric Olson, the architect, did bring up, if we don't want them red, what if they were gray, like the lower, we don't have any pictures, maybe we could bring a picture up on the screen here, but that kind of show a lower level where they have gray banding also. But, we, at the commission meeting, I asked some of the MLC staff, nowhere on any of their logos or letterheads do they have Lansing. They have the knight, they're trying to represent, the donor, by, her, their name on the field house is where it's coming, and I look at it as an architectural feature. But.
Can we get that design up on the screen so people that are at home can see it?
Well, it's in our council agenda packets, I can see.
Right, but the public doesn't have
public.
that.
Boy, you're gonna have to give me a second unless you have it, Eric.
And while they're looking for it, I will put in my 2 cents as well, and I can't agree with Councilor Christian as well, of MLC being one of the quietest, most perfect contributors to this community, and this is a beautiful facility they're putting together to attract students, athletes, and just be a nice facility for the public itself. This is 100% an architectural design look to me as well, too, not signage. That picture right there says everything. I mean, we could call the gray part mountains. Is that signage? Well, no, it's not. This is a part of it. And I just think it's a very tasteful, and being it is a huge building, it needs to be something large scale.
Madam President, if I can interject, just speaking as the city attorney, just the recommendation, as I understand it in summary, is that the Planning Commission has suggested allowing this variance up to 820 square feet on a ordinance that requires 30. And I don't know mathematically what that percentage is, but it's obviously very substantial. And the college is requesting almost twice that. I believe that staff has some information from other architects about whether or not these lances would be considered banding or signage. The law states that, the variance can be granted if there are unique conditions that relate to the property. And I don't think anyone is going to dispute how fine a corporate citizen MLC has been to this community. But that's not really the standard that is supposed to be applied when, the council is deciding on whether or not a variance is going to be granted. It's obviously your call to make. If these are, I'm assuming what we're looking at in the photos are lances, and what's above that is the lancer image. And the reason that they're lances and not just a horizontal, rectangular band is because they're part of the lancer image, which is a sign, I would think. And again, I think that staff has got some other information on that, so.
Sure. So we did talk to 3 other independent architects about this signage in particular, and simply asked them the question: are these red lines? Do you see them as an architectural feature of the building, or as part of the sign area on the structure? And all 3 of them did say that they believed it was part of the sign area of the structure. Now, I think there is probably some argument on both sides of that, but the 3 that we had talked to had saw it that way.
Well, it just brings me back to 30 square feet of signage. I mean, we know that it's outdated. What kind of timeline are we looking at of getting that ordinance updated?
It's our intent fully to have the updated zoning ordinance to the city council in December.
Okay.
You know, we've been talking about it for
It's
several
just
years. I think
so
we need to add it to a
incredibly
work session and get
overdue,
going.
and I just think that it's not, I understand exactly, precisely what Roger's saying, that this is, that this is what you get and this is what we have on the books, but to burden our community with that, to me, this is very tastefully done. Again, quiet contributor to the community. I know that it was a little bit split at planning, but I mean, I'm definitely leaning towards the sign. I think it's well done. We're really close. I would hate to see something stifled, stopped, or changed in a way that it doesn't need to be, because we're 12 to 16 weeks away from, making some updates on things. That's how I feel.
Dave Schnurberg?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just want to remind the council that, we do have an existing sign ordinance, and that's what we have to deal with. And in the 44 years I've been with the city, as far as a request for a variance, this is by far the one that it's the greatest that we've ever dealt with. Now, when we were looking at sign ordinances from other communities for the field house, the highest that we could find was 5% of a sign of a wall, and that was the city of St. Cloud. So 5%. Here, we're double that.
And would 5% be the 800 approximately? So I think, or would that be less than that?
It would, excuse me, 5%, let's see, 800 would be almost 10% of the wall face.
So it would be double what any other community is allowing?
What we had found, yes.
And that's at the 800 recommended by the commission? 800.
Well, the 800 recommended by the commission were for both walls, so the north and south wall. So it cut their request of little over 1,500 square feet roughly in half. So that would end up being closer to 5% total if you were to add the north and south wall together.
And John, that was with not including banding.
I went back and I wanted to make sure I was hearing that correctly. The recommendation was that they needed to get to 820 square feet of total signage on the property. That included the red lines. Okay, so they needed to either shrink it or remove some pieces of the signage.
And I just throw in there really quick that if you did not include the red lances as part of the signage, as it currently sits, it would be 816 and a half square feet.
Just one other thing, we do have a definition for a sign. And I can see Councilor Christian nodding his head. And it refers to the term, there's a number of terms that are used there. And the definition that we have for a sign is one that you'll find that most communities use in the state of Minnesota, at least in ordinances that I've looked at. And so that depiction, to say the red lines aren't part of the sign, that's not consistent with the application that I've seen of sign regulations in the past.
And we do have folks here from the college. Do they want to say anything, add anything to the discussion? You're here, so I want to make sure you have an opportunity if you want to speak.
If you can state your name and address for the record.
Scott Schmudlock, Vice President for Administration at Martin Luther College. One of the things I think we have to keep in mind is that this is a unique building. Also, when the signage regulations were made, it was before buildings of this type were common. We have a fabric-covered steel frame structure, and you don't have the ability to do some of the architectural things that you could do with brick or other differences with color and so forth in a building. So in order to be able to break up a large white space the red lines were added to the building design. And, you can debate it all you want. I think it looks better with the red stripes in there because it does break up a tremendous amount of white space. That's exactly why the gray wainscoting, or whatever you want to call it, is that the terminology? Same reason that is on there as well, is just because we wanted to somehow do what we could with a large white fabric covered building. So, thank you.
Were you able to have some other renderings with a slightly smaller logo on top, slightly smaller lettering and slightly thinner lances? Like, what kind of square footage would we be talking about? I mean, would we be able to shrink it to something that would be, if you just, go down a little bit on everything, thin out those lances? Hi.
Madam President and council members, my name is Eric Olson. I'm an architect with Olson and Hobby Architects, and also the architect representing Martin Luther College. As Scott mentioned, when we developed this, we looked at numerous options, and also working with the building manufacturer, Legacy Building Suppliers. They are supplying the fabric colors, and we're kind of limited to options, and also just working with them and how they put things together. So this was the design that we came up that tried to take the scale of 70 feet down to more of a smaller scale if possible. And as Scott mentioned, the whole intent of the banding, the upper banding, the lower banding, the wainscot, was all to try to bring it down to scale, to give it a little bit more interest for what the building is and its use. Again, it's, as Mr. Christian mentioned, it literally is out in the middle of nowhere. We have a lot of soccer fields, baseball fields around it. The college has, they use the facility, that area quite a bit for athletics. And so, but as far as other options, this was actually proposed as being called the Knight Center. And we looked at a much larger letters for the Knight Center, and once we had known the information for the contributor, the donor, Betty Cohn, that actually became much smaller. So that's what was presented on this image now. Also, I'd like to clarify, when we presented this variance request, we went to a B2 because that was something, actually, some of the staff recommended to go towards because of the facility and the type of structure this is, with the 10%. So the 10% that is presented here, even including the red banding, it's less than 10%. It's like 9.9. It's all part of the variance request. So when we remove that red banding, we bring it down to actually less. That's kind of up here too. Yeah, it's 9.9%. And then actually it's about 3.5% when there's no red banding. So that's on both sides. So it does reduce it down if you remove what we would call an architectural feature from a signage element. So, and some of the comments that were discussed about other facilities, there are other colleges, collegiate facilities that use their logos on their buildings all over the country. This one is a local one over at MSU. Here's one in Waterloo. Here's one that's going at NDSU. Here's another one. These buildings are actually legacy buildings. So these are the same type of building that MLC is getting. This is a decorative feature. Is this considered signage? There's images that are put on buildings that, I guess, would you consider signage? Or to break it up. We have tons of different buildings all over that use images for field houses, for athletic activities, events that are large buildings. And it's used to break up the elevations and the masses of these large structures. So that was really our intent when we were coming up with this concept that the college thought was pretty good. We thought it was pretty nice too. And also the Betty Cohn family thought it was really nice as well. So if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Dave Schnorbeck, one of the things I think you need to take into consideration, and that is precedence. Because of some Supreme Court rulings, signage is now tending to, things are being placed into categories. So in the future, there may be one category for institutions. So if we're saying 1,500 is acceptable, then every institution in town, should have the same opportunity for signage purposes. So precedence is something that you should take into consideration. One other thing with regards to the pictures that were displayed, those are nice, but I don't know the community sign ordinance, and I don't know what the state enabling legislation is when it comes to signage. So it's kind of hard to evaluate what's taking place elsewhere without that information as well. Thank you.
Dave, could I ask you a question?
Sure.
In regards to this, what if MLC would call this a campus? And if this whole area could be called a campus, it's, and it's separately zoned as their college campus, and they have this on their own campus, could we do anything differently there by saying it's unique because it's a college campus and it separates itself?
But we have a medical campus. I mean, the high school kind of has a campus. I mean, I think when it comes to signage, you can't separate something out and say only this location has this signage. Let me give you an example. When it comes to residential areas now, you no longer can, dictate the types of signs and the size of them. So, for example, you can't say a real estate sign can be 8 square feet, but a business sign can only be 2 square feet. You have to have one standard. So what most people are now going to is 6 square feet. And everybody has to fit, under that threshold. And that's going to apply then to other types of districts that we have. So I think, we're going to end up having to do it by use. So you'll have commercial, you'll have industrial, you'll have institutional, probably, and you'll have residential.
I do have one question, Dave, for you. Okay, I know we consider that a lance on there, correct? The red bands?
Can be interpreted as lance or as architectural.
I think it's if you look at the definition of sign, it uses a bunch of different terms, but display is one of them. So even if it's not a lance, it's display.
But I mean, if they change the architectural feature of that, creating a band, is it signage then or not? To me, that's a fine line. What is the photos that he showed? What's architectural design and what's signage? I mean, if you put a red band straight across there, that's signage?
No, I would say that would be banding. If you look at the definition of banding, that you can go online and look at it, banding is horizontal. And all of the photographs I've looked at with buildings in it, most of that banding is horizontal. I'll be honest with you, didn't see any photographs with that type of diagonal banding, so to speak.
We have, we've all agreed for probably 2 to 3 years, maybe even longer, that our ordinance is out of date. Doesn't address our larger buildings, comes up over and over again. So this is on us. We need to get that fixed, and it needs to happen soon. I like this, as everybody else has talked about, and Counselor Christian has stated, our college has always done a nice job up there with the sign that's up on Center Street. That was a lot of dialogue about, geez, what's that been, about 10 years ago now, I think, when we did that? And that was the first lighted up neon type style sign, and we were a little nervous about that, whether it was going to be too big, it was going to be distracting, and it turned out to be just fine. And I think this is exactly going to end up being the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and approve the application by Olson and Hobby Architects LLC on behalf of Martin Luther College requesting a variance to allow up to 1,545 and a half square feet of exterior signage on the Betty Cone Fieldhouse on property zoned RA at 1800 Betker Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
The only discussion I have is I think we keep talking about the sign thing, but can we get it on a work session and get moving on this?
It's going to be part of the zoning ordinance, correct? And so that'll be on your desk in December, but it'll be going to the planning commission for
Councilor, I've
review.
been working with staff on this. The zoning ordinance is hundreds of pages long.
Oh, yeah.
It's a massive undertaking. We've probably got about half of it, close to half of it,
Okay.
that we've got gone through.
I'm sure
But
you'll
at the
clean it
end-
up well.
But at the end of the day, I don't know that anything in the new ordinance is going to allow 1,500 square feet on this
Right.
building. So you'd still. be
Well, we're not going to
looking
get
at a
many
very-
buildings like this. We're just not. Not in our town. I mean, we might get one or two, maybe, but this is real unusual, so.
John, are we just under 10% then with the 1,500? You know, so maybe perhaps in our zoning ordinance, we'll put 10% down, not to exceed 10% if it's correct.
I want to comment on Counselor Mack. I mean, again, our sign ordinance in the B2, Target, come in there and put 2,000 square feet on their building if their wall is that big, right on Broadway. This one's out in I'm going to call it the pasture. I don't have an issue with it. I realize what Roger's saying. I mean, it's the first one we've had.
Did we get a second?
I believe we
Yes.
do have a motion
Larry.
and a
Okay.
second.
All right. Want to make sure.
Additional discussion? All right, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 5.1, Airport Improvement Grant Program Grant Offer.
Madam President, City Councilors, a little bit of background on this. Back in May of last year, we awarded the project, or the contract for the airport hangar area pavement rehabilitation project. Due to the timeline and process it takes to get these federal grants for these projects, the project was not constructed last year due to weather and how late we received that grant in September, October. So that's been on this contractor's schedule. And in the meantime, because of that delay, we were fortunate and found, the FAA found additional entitlement funding for the airport. And I should back up one more time, is that contract did not include alternate one as part of that project due to funding constraints. So alternate one would complete that hangar area pavement project in whole. Right now, under contract is just a portion of that, and doing alternate one would finish that area off in its entirety. So with these additional entitlement funding dollars that the FAA found for us, it's almost $300,000 in additional funding, with another almost $50,000 in funding from the state of Minnesota. This entitlement funding would allow us to complete that project in whole. So we would have all new taxi lane pavement north of our concrete ramp. So it'd be my recommendation that we accept the grant for the additional funding and then issue the notice to proceed on agreement number one with MR Paving and Excavating to complete that work with alternate number one. And then in addition to that would be amendment number one to task order 2015-05 with Mean Hunt, who is our project engineer for this project and for work at the airport for the additional construction, observation, and administrative tasks associated with this additional work. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Well, it's good news, so I'm going to read this as fast as I can. I'm going to offer the resolution, waive the reading for the following. Accepting the grant offer for Airport Improvement Program Project Number 3-27-0070-019-2021 at the New Ulm Municipal Airport, and authorize the city manager and city attorney to execute the supplement agreement grant offer. Number 2, issue notice to proceed for supplement agreement number 1 with M&R Paving Excavating for work associated with alternate number 1. And item 3, approve amendment 1 to task order 2015-05 with Mead and Hunt for additional construction administrative related to the award of alternate number 1.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Just a quick question. On item number 2, it says M&R Paving. Why is it not out for bid, or explain that briefly?
Yep, so this project we bid out back on May 19th, and the original bids that were received included that work for alternate number 1.
Thank you.
And MR has honored the same pricing on the alternate number 1, so.
Great. Thank you.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 5.2, bid for wall repair at 307 North Minnesota Street.
Excuse me. Council President, councilors, before you have a proposal to reject the bid that was received by staff. And the reason we would like council to reject the bid is we only got one bid in for 307 North Minnesota Street. And only one contractor showed up to the pre-bid meeting, which was mandatory, and that bid came in at $126,456, which was well above the engineer's estimate, and only $14,000 less than than demoing the building. So Elwood and I don't feel comfortable with getting one bid in. We would like to go back out at the beginning of the year to see if we can get a couple more bids and then see where it lands at that point.
I'll offer a motion to reject the bid and authorize staff to rebid the project in January of '22 for spring repair and property at 307 North Minnesota Street, the building that keeps on giving us a pain.
Away.
I will
But I'll
second.
second, or yeah, Andrea.
Thank you. Second. Any more discussion? Go ahead.
My
Larry.
question would be, what if we get only one bid again?
Right, that was going to be my
You know,
question.
In
is-
those regards.
Yep, if we get one bid, then it is what it is at that point, and we need to move forward with doing something.
I mean, I know right now construction is busy. We're going to approve a shade structure that we only got one bid on the, right on down the line. I don't know. I mean, how long, question for the city attorney, how long do we keep playing with this? Till it falls down?
Well, I haven't heard anything from staff indicating there's any more immediate concerns. It is a safety issue, that's why you're doing this. And that certainly would trigger having to move a little quicker. But in light of this, with just the one bid coming in, I understand the recommendation.
All right.
Could we bring it back for discussion for demo? Or do we want to wait and go get another, take the time, get another bid again, see what happens? I mean,
We can bring all that back as one package, get a firmer bid for the demo, but, you know, like we said at the previous meeting, that would be shoring up the wall potentially on the journal side of things. So when we come back probably in February, we'll bring everything, estimate, a stronger estimate for demo, and then the bids.
You know, I mean, I'm going to say it again. We previously had this before, and I offered the motion to demo it and be done with it, and staff said that we had to repair the journal's wall is what was being come up. But, if everybody can remember back, when we tore down Dunheim Schoostall back in the day, we didn't repair the wall there, across by City Center Apartments now where the one building stands, that wall kind of looks not good, but you were trying to be good stewards to try to repair a wall, but actually repairing the wall is more than tearing the building down. So it's just, but I think if we go into wanting to repair just this wall here, and we put on the assessments, the individual isn't current with his taxes and everything, and then it's going to go back for tax forfeiture, and someone's going to buy it and for pennies on the dollar, and then the argument is, if we put 125, 130,000 into it, do we have to insure it to make sure it doesn't burn, or, you know, we're pretty much vested in it. But, you know, it's a catch-22. It's just my thoughts.
There is a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll see it again soon. Item number 5.3, German Park Amphitheater Shade Structure Award Project.
I'm on a motion to award the German Park Amphitheater Shade Structure Project to Ebert Construction of Corcoran, Minnesota in the amount of $291,754.23.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Just an item to mention that this one here, we also only got the one bid. This is also coming from the grant from the state of Minnesota, which is good news.
Which will cover up to $300,000 for expenses related to this project.
Correct.
So, did we have a second? I'm sorry. Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion carries. Item number 6.1, under new business, separation agreement with Audra Shanneman.
Thank you, Council President, Councilors, Shauna Boomgarden, Human Resources Director. Staff recommended that the position of Economic Development Director, Assistant City Manager be eliminated from the budget effective December 31st. As a result, Audra Shanneman requested a severance package. Staff met with the Personnel Committee on August 24th, and it was their recommendation to move forward with a severance package along with the release of claims. Audra asked the city for some changes to the terms, and the terms have been mutually agreed. Her last day of employment would be September 8th. She has 21 days to sign the agreement and provide a resignation letter, and then another 15 days to rescind. The package includes 16 weeks and 2 days at our regular pay and payout of 25% of accrued sick leave and 100% of vacation. Are there any questions with the agreement?
Thank you.
Just the one question with the city attorney. You're fine with all the legal documents that's in front of us?
The language in the agreement is, yeah, I think
All
it's
right.
accurate. Would accomplish the purpose.
With the understanding that there's mutual agreement here, I'm going to go ahead and offer a motion to approve the terms of the separation agreement with Audra Shanneman, Economic Development Director, Assistant City Manager, effective September 8, 2021.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Let's thank Audra for her service.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6.2, set public hearing on reassessment of unpaid Lakeside Village 2005 and Dakota West 2007 special assessments.
Madam President, City Councilors, this is just setting a public hearing for the reassessments on these lots that have sold out in Dakota West and Lakeside Village Edition.
Thank you.
I'll offer a motion to approve the reassessment of the following unpaid special assessments: 2005 Lakeside Village Edition, A, $9,748.59 each on Lot 20, Block 1, Lots 2-4, Block 5, Lakeside Edition, Phase 1, and B, $2,917.88 each on Lots 1 through 6, Lots 21 through 28, Block 1, Lakeside Village Edition, Phase 2, and 2007 Dakota West Edition, number A, $25,921.51 on Lot 2, Block 1, Dakota West Edition. And set the date for public hearing for Tuesday, October 19th, 2021 at 4:30 PM.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.3, Nicollet County CSAH 37 snow removal agreement.
I'll offer a motion to approve the Nicollet County Highway 37 snow removal agreement dated October 12, 2021, and authorize city manager and finance director to execute the agreement.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
The only thing, we prove this every year, every year, and it's great, but can't we do a 5-year agreement or something like that? So we don't have to do it
It hasn't, well, not much has changed since we started the agreement in 1980, so I would say let it ride.
I just thought of my, it's again, it's on
It
the
is a
agenda
nice thought,
again.
and maybe, once we do some more
That's
updates out there, we can.
fine. We got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah. Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.4, establish on-street business parking.
Madam President, City Councilors, we received a request from Mr. Scott Winchell with Winchell Insurance requesting parking stalls adjacent to his place of business to be signed for business parking only. With the parking restrictions that we put in place recently with the no parking due to the Quick Trip facility and with the truck turning movements in and out of that facility. So he just requested that signage for his facility and as well as Classic Trends salon adjacent to his place of business as well. So their patrons have ample room to park on the street there.
We'll make a motion to offer a resolution to waive the reading to establish signed business-only parking stalls for along 17th North Street for Winchell Insurance at 616 17th North Street and Classic Trends 1700 North State Street.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 6.5, set the special assessment interest rate for projects financed by 2021 bonds.
Counselors, this is just an annual request that we go through once the bonds are sold for this year. We generally set the assessment rate, or the interest rate for those assessments that will be applied next year for those projects, about 2% higher than that interest rate that we get on the bond sale. So that would put it at about 2.6% this year.
I do have one question for the city attorney. Since I will be having to pay a special assessment next year, should I abstain from setting my interest rate?
You're wise to raise that, and I would be my
All right,
recommendation.
I'll be
Counselor.
abstaining from the vote.
Thank you.
Madam President, City Councilors, Counselor Christian, you'll be assessed for last year's stuff, so the 2021 wouldn't apply to you.
Not 5 years from now?
Not, well,
All right. Oh, then I
That's a
will
good
vote.
thought, though.
All right.
Thank you for thinking ahead for that. Okay. Did we have a motion?
Nope, I'll make a motion off the
Okay.
resolution, waive the reading, setting the interest rate of 2.6% for special assessments levied for projects financed by general obligation permanent improvement revolving fund bond series 2021B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 6.6, request for sidewalk art at Washington Learning Center.
I think this is a great idea. I'll approve the request to Washington Learning Center to paint their sidewalk along Jefferson Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.7, lighting of Herman Monument.
I'm going to go ahead and approve the lighting of the Herman Monument blue on September 26, 2021 for Melanoma Awareness Day, October 15th, 2021 for International Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7.1, report of claims paid.
I'll make a motion to accept the list of claims paid in the amount of $6,598,000, $402.76.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Is that higher just due to the bond stuff? Or?
No, there's several investments that were made.
Okay.
So those are included in there, just replacing investments that were either called or had matured.
Perfect. Thank you. Any more discussion?
I find it funny that we approved $6 million in a heartbeat and spent a half an hour on a sign.
It's a good observation.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. With no more business, this meeting is adjourned.